Let's get on with our business without much ado. During his monthly media chat in Abuja just yesterday, FCT Minister Nyesom Wike dismissed the chances of your principal, former VP Atiku Abubakar, in the forthcoming 2027 presidential elections, dismissing his chances as a complete non-starter. He has no path to victory. How do you respond?
Well, my principal, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, is still the same person that rejected Nyesom Wike to be his vice presidential candidate in 2023. Basically for this kind of attitude. You know, when somebody is a political wrestler, that is what President Tinubu has termed all his followers and himself. The only thing he likes to do is to go to the mud to wrestle because of power. That was the only reason Atiku Abubakar considered him unfit to be the face of any campaign, any political party, or any democratic adventure. Because eventually, these men are not democrats. They are despots. Now, is there any human being in the whole world that is in any state of doubt that were it not for rigging, were it not for electoral banditry, is there anybody in any doubt that APC will not win this election? It is settled. You know, he said he dismissed our chances in all the context that Nyesom Wike has done with Atiku. Atiku defeated him in a landslide. The only contest that brought them one-on-one was the primary election of PDP in 2022, and Atiku Abubakar defeated him in a landslide. Atiku Abubakar went to Rivers State, Port Harcourt, where Wike was supporting another candidate in a primary. In his own home turf, Atiku Abubakar defeated him and his candidate landslide. Give Atiku some flowers. Now, when it comes to politics, Nyesom Wike is his student, and that will play out again in 2027, where Atiku Abubakar will defeat him and defeat his candidate this time around in a general election by the grace of God.
Okay. In that same interview I referenced earlier, the FCT minister likewise came down heavily on his former boss, if I might add, because he was a former governor, Amaechi, now vice presidential nominee of the Atiku ticket. So it was Amaechi that first nominated or picked Wike as his chief of staff, and then eventually forwarded his name or recommended him to be appointed by Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, then president, as Minister for State for Education. But yesterday, while addressing the media, Nyesom Wike dismissed offhandedly Amaechi's value to the ticket, to the Atiku ticket, stating unequivocally that Amaechi has not won any elections since he left the governorship in 2015 or so, and that he has been defeating him serially, you know, and that the only thing it believes Amaechi is bringing to the Atiku campaign, perhaps, is finances. How do you respond to this?
You know, when you peddle a lot of falsehoods over a while, it will appear as if there is any sense in it, when in actual sense, there is no sense in it. Amaechi was recruited to be the DG of the campaign for Buhari to be president in 2015. He was not DG of campaign for Rivers State. His job was to deliver Buhari as president. The first time a DG of an opposition party was to wrestle with an incumbent government. And His Excellency, Right Honorable Amaechi, delivered Buhari as president in his capacity as the DG. It has never happened. Give him some flowers. Amaechi, when he went to vote in Rivers State, the political wrestlers had already hijacked all the results. He asked them, where are the result sheets? There was none. He said, I am not going to contribute to the perfidy that is going on in Rivers State. By then, he had calculated, making all the arrangements as DG, that even if Rivers State is not included in Buhari's victory, Buhari was still going to win. Because his job was to deliver Buhari. And he left Rivers State for the political wrestlers, and they went to the dirt and wrestled themselves. And he came back and still delivered Buhari to be president. He didn't want to destroy his state for an election he knew he has already won, even without Rivers State. Tinubu did not win Lagos. He became president. Please, I would prefer I'm from Enugu State. If you give me the choice whether to win as president of Nigeria and lose Enugu State, or to win Enugu State and lose as president of Nigeria, I will tell you speedily, may I become the president of Nigeria without equivocation, without Enugu State. So please, Chibike Amaechi, for 2 times he was the DJ of Buhari and he won for Buhari 2 times. One was the historic feat that has never happened in Nigeria. Opposition party is defeating an incumbent. Give him some flowers. He's not a local champion. When Wike is talking about election, can't you see? He restricts himself in Rivers State, local champion. When he says, I defeated him, this, defeated him. Please, let me ask. Chibike Amaechi, did he contest for Rivers State governor election in 2015? Did he contest for Rivers State any political office in 2019? How did you defeat him? So, unfortunately, what he said was not the reflection of the facts. Chibike has been very successful all through. And as vice presidential candidate, he's going to deliver again for his boss, Atiku Abubakar, for ADC, and for the Nigerian people. He's the man that is most suitable for the job now. I can say it without equivocation. Throughout the whole of South, there is nobody that has the kind of qualification now that Chibike Amaechi has. He was the Speaker of the House of Assembly for 8 years. He was governor, in other words, operating as a legislator. He was the executive governor for 8 years, operating as an executive. He was a minister for 8 years, for 24 years unbroken public service record, operating at the state and at the national level, operating both at the legislative and the executive levels. Nobody has this kind of experience. And because of the desecration of our democracy, because of the destruction of our economy, and because of the imminent collapse of the Nigerian system under Tinubu, we need men of institutional memory and experience to take over Nigeria now. And Chibike Amaechi is one of the people that has something to bring in terms of institutional experience and memory that will help us to navigate ourselves out of the incompetence and corruption of the APC government. Nobody in the South has such qualification. Atiku made a very good choice.
Okay, interrogating this Rotimi Amaechi and Nyesom Wike feud, let's interrogate it a bit more. In Wike's specific words, he says Rotimi Amaechi cannot deliver Rivers State for Atiku, or for that matter, any of the South states. And he declared their ticket, that is the Atiku Amaechi ticket, as dead on arrival. Those are his words. Now, let me give a bit of some context to that. In 2023 elections, VP Atiku selected Ifeanyi Okowa as his running mate. Ifeanyi Okowa, of course, then was sitting governor of Delta State. He lost Delta State. He could not deliver Delta State for Atiku Abubakar. So, are you not worried that Nyesom Wike is openly thumping his chest, boasting? Are you not afraid of this history repeating itself? Mr. Kenneth, are you not afraid of history repeating itself?
I just told you about the history of Rotimi Amaechi. Good. Rotimi Amaechi is not Ifeanyi Okowa. So that comparison falls flat on its face. Rotimi Amaechi achieved a feat that nobody in Nigeria has ever achieved as Director General. Took a man that has lost the election on the presidential level 3 times, and as DG, set up a structure, campaigned, and ensured he won election. And I'm talking about Buhari as president. He did it not once, but twice. So please, I am here to say that Chibike Amaechi will do it again, because this is another time now that he's going to campaign for the opposition against an incumbent, and he has that aura of victory in defeating incumbents from the opposition. If he did it as DG, much more will he do something better as vice presidential candidate. Just watch us and watch where we're going.
Okay, final interrogation on this. In 2015, Rotimi Amaechi backed a certain Dakuku Peter side. He lost to Nyesom Wike. In the repeat in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, he also supported, I think it was Tony Cole, and they lost. Meanwhile, all this time he was a very powerful minister in the Buhari presidency. Even 2023 elections, his candidates in Rivers State lost. Are you very confident that Rotimi at least can deliver Rivers State in 2027, Mr. Kenneth?
I am talking about national election. Yeah. In 2015, Wike was the powerful minister in education. He supported an incumbent president, Goodluck Jonathan, and he lost. In 2019, he supported another candidate in the presidential primary in Rivers State, Port Harcourt, and he lost. I'm talking about national election. You're dragging me into state caucus election.
It is the state that makes up the national election.
That's what I'm saying. That Chibuike Amaechi is a national figure, not a state jingoist, and he has delivered. I'm talking about Atiku Abubakar, and I'm saying Chibuike Amaechi has what it takes to deliver him as president. And they're still referring me to backyard state politics and trying to compare him with local champions. He's chief of staff. He said he doesn't like communicating with his subordinates. So let it be. Ask me things on the national level, because I am here as a spokesperson for a national politician.
You're not worried that
state politician come after all these
the media advisor to FCT Minister.
All these peripheral state level spokespersons.
That guy is very brutal.
Hold on. You are the one instigating problem. All these peripheral state level spokespersons. I mean, let them concentrate on the state headquarters, that FCT headquarters or Port Harcourt. We're talking about federal election.
Okay, let's move away from that. INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, has since published the list of all the candidates, their vice presidential candidates, and their particulars, their details, academic, professionals, and all of those. I mean, a cursory look by anyone, and it's been all over social media, even conventional media. The incumbent president seems to have, I don't know how to put it. He didn't attend primary nor secondary school, but then we saw a degree from Chicago State University, and this has generated quite a ruckus on everywhere. People are debating or discussing on this. What does this mean for democracy?
What it means is that everything about democracy under Tinubu's government and rule of law have been desecrated. First of all, Nigerian law, because we're not practicing American law. And if you remember the case of Atiku versus INEC in the presidential election, the Supreme Court made it clear that the rules that apply in other jurisdictions do not necessarily apply within the Nigerian jurisdiction. And the reason is because there are different jurisdictions. The rule in Nigeria is that you cannot get into the university without having 5 credits in your O-level. That is the rule. So if you don't have any secondary school certificate, you cannot come and present a university certificate, because you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. And the constitution is very clear that it is school cert or its equivalent. And we're talking about Nigeria. We're not talking about the United States. Now, I was a member of the presidential legal team within that era. And I can tell you that Atiku Abubakar, they went to America and they got a deposition where they said that the certificate that Tinubu is holding did not emanate from them. I could remember the Tinubu people, they were spinning it then that third parties could write certificates, that the university grants third parties to write certificate. The university said that certificate, as a matter of fact, in their deposition, which I saw, they dubbed it, as when they were confusing Chicago State University and that certificate, they said, okay, let them refer to that certificate as INEC certificate, not their certificate, so that they could make a difference. In the deposition that I read, the reason that was not considered was that the Supreme Court said that it lacked jurisdiction to entertain it, because the 180 days that the laws provided for a petition to last at the trial court has expired. And what the trial court does not have, when the trial court does not have jurisdiction to entertain a matter, the appellate court cannot have jurisdiction to entertain it. That was why the Supreme Court, because they brought this issue of forged certificate letter to the Supreme Court and wanted the Supreme Court to entertain it. And the Supreme Court said no, the 180 days had expired, and the rules for admission of such evidence in Nigeria is not the same with that of United States. So sorry, according to the deposition by the Chicago State University, that certificate did not emanate from it, and one can say it is forged by our law, since the institution that purportedly issued it has disowned and denied it. And since he does not have primary school certificate, secondary school certificate, by his own deposition, he couldn't have had university certificate. So in my own opinion now, he did not present any certificate, and as such, he's not qualified to contest as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Okay, what would you say as response to the Constitution of Nigeria? You are a lawyer. I'm a layman, but at least I'm also educated. You guys think you're also learned? We are educated also. We are learned too.
Yeah, no, sorry. I concede to you that you are educated, but with profound respect, you're not learned.
Okay. Now, the ground norm, the Constitution says you don't even have to have a WAEC certificate. In fact, you don't even have to present anything. If the INEC chairman or resident electoral commissioner is able to certify or convince himself that this person is educated, maybe he can read or write, he qualifies. Has President Tinubu not met that constitutional threshold?
What he said is just correct. That is why I'm surprised that he is embarrassing himself by providing such certificate. He could have just said, having contested as governor, I am deemed qualified because I can speak English, I am literate, INEC has confirmed. He would have spoken English there and gone his way. What you just said is correct. Legally, it is applicable. Why embarrass yourself by being controversial? He knows that if not that we are Nigerians, he wouldn't be allowed to run. And that is what we should be pursuing.
Wow. And now, this certificate of the Chicago State University that you have said,
yeah.
I mean, the Chicago State University did
that particular certificate that is parading, and I'm talking as in 2023. Yes. Don't know whether he has any other one. If it is that particular one, Chicago State University has deposed to that it did not come from them.
Now, if there's a case of forgery, I'm just presuming that there's a case of forgery that may come up because of that. Now, how would you contextualize this with the National Assembly when they were amending the Electoral Act 2026? They removed in section 138, subsections 1, 2, A and B and all of those, and made forgery a non-issue for disqualification of an aspirant or a candidate, or indeed someone who has won elections. They removed that provision. They rendered it nugatory that you cannot remove someone based on forgery. How do you react to all this?
Oh, well, when they finished the amendment of 2026 Electoral Act, I was one of the persons that came out and said some of those amendments are useless in law. Because any amendment you make that contravenes the position of the Constitution is void to the extent of its inconsistency with the Constitution. The Constitution is the ground norm. And section 1, subsection 1 is very clear. It's supreme and has binding force on all authorities and persons. And then section 1, subsection 3 says, if any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, that other law is void to the extent of its inconsistency. The Constitution is very clear. If you present a forged certificate, you are disqualified. And so the Electoral Act amendment that says it is no longer basis for qualification or disqualification is void. However, they cleverly wanted to say that it is only an aspirant. In other words, they now made it that it's only an aspirant that has the locus standi to bring it. In other words, if you are from APC, it's only those that contested with Bola Ahmed that has the locus standi to bring up the issue of qualification. You see, that is where they are clever, but we will not be sure until there is a judicial pronouncement on it.
Okay. How important, Mr. Kenneth, is educational qualification? And I ask this question because I spent a couple or more decades in the private sector, and I know what it took, for anybody to get into the private sector. You come in as entry level, management trainee and all of those. And then, you are given very stiff qualification thresholds. Basic degree. I mean, I say basic degree. Now, for you to enhance your chances, maybe an upper level degree 2-1 or even first class. And in some cases, would insist that a master's degree would enhance your chances. That is for entry level management training. Now we're talking about the first office in the land, Mr. Kenneth, the highest office in Nigeria. And we make the qualification of such lowly status. How does this enhance our leadership recruitment or selection process?
A lot of people always harp on this issue that you can be naturally endowed to be intelligent. But the honest truth is that natural intelligence is not enough.
Native intelligence.
And not okay, native intelligence. Because every human being by nature has a lot of certain things. You're created with reason. So you will reason wherever you are. But knowledge is the ingredient with which wisdom operates on. You cannot be wiser than your knowledge. Acquiring of knowledge is where education comes in. Education is the giving and getting of ideas, skills, and values.
Okay. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria had a meeting with President Tinubu last week. The top echelon of the Catholic priests in Nigeria. They had a meeting with the president at the presidential villa. And in that meeting, the president made certain, of course, they presented to him that the nation is bleeding. You know, the leader who spoke, you know, I iterated, number one, the nation is bleeding. The non-neutrality of INEC, the Electoral Commission, in their own views, and then also that there is massive hunger in the land, that people are hungry as a result of the policy choices of the administration. Now, and I think they tried to appeal to the conscience of Mr. President, but then the president retorted in his own remarks, number one, that, politics, all is fair in politics. That was very shocking to most Nigerians, including myself. Number two, that hunger has been with us even since before he was born, and that in any case, it is the job of the priests. You know, because people are hungry and whatever, their flock, their parishioners of the priest, that they should feed them. You know, and then he said he's not going to give you guys an opposition, he's not going to give you any red carpets, that you guys are going to wrestle each other, you know, to the ground and all of those. How do you respond to this? That this was the president of Nigeria, a sort of father of the nation, saying this. How do you respond?
I'm sure you must have been aware that Cardinal Onanuga is a man with classical intelligence, a man who, in his secondary school level, became the best student in the whole northern region. And I heard that Ahmadu Bello came with a delegation to him, sent a delegation to him to give him scholarship for making them proud, and he chose to be a priest. So what do you expect when you have an interaction between a genius and a mediocre? You have your mediocre president whose certificates are questioned, who has this primitive mentality of accumulation of wealth. And you have the other one, a genius, who has decided he has no business with earthly things. Not married, but being one of the good, best-looking people of his time. No children, because he wants to serve God and humanity. And they went to the president. They told the president, we are not politicians. We have not come here to seek for personal wealth or oil wells. We are simply not seeking. We're not seeking for your job or any politician's job. We are here on behalf of those people who will not have the privilege to have meeting with the president, the voice of the voiceless. We are here because we are not getting as we ought to get in Nigeria. We are not getting what we deserve to get in Nigeria. We are here to plead with you. They went for 3 reasons: the political climate, the insecurity, and the economy. And they told the president, a lot of people are painting rosy picture for you, but we're here to bring the reality of the situation to you. Nigeria is bleeding. And to corroborate this, every day in Nigeria, people are massacred. As I talked to you, the news I heard this morning was that in Sokoto, terrorists sacked one village, and some of them ran into the sea and were drowned because they were hopeless. Villagers, Sokoto. I heard it this morning in the news. It happened on Monday. Because I said insecurity in Tinubu's regime is a daily occurrence. You know what happened in Benue? I saw it in the news yesterday. 4 people were killed by armed headers. The same around Nigeria. It was Benue governor earlier that said one time Benue is bleeding. So in terms of insecurity, these men of God are saying what is already there, but for which they believe that the people around the president are painting rosy picture. And you could see that the people around him are really painting rosy picture because they say he did not believe. In the area of economy, they say, Mr. President, our economy is not helping the poor people. And the president, I have not seen such ridiculous answer. And since he was born, there was hunger. Mr. President, it's not the Nigeria that I live that you're talking about. When I was born, my grandmother in the village begs people to come and eat in her house. Food was so surplus. And I'm talking about my grandmother. I'm not talking about my father. Forget it. That one is that everybody in the street that is poor is being fed. So I don't know the Nigeria he's talking about. But I'm sorry he did not present the facts honestly. And that was what the cardinals were saying. The economy is bringing poverty. By World Bank standard, they say 7 million persons are going into poverty every year. And you know, when it comes to multi-dimensional poverty, you're talking about 180 million or thereabout. Everybody is almost poor. Now, they talked about political climate. What did they say? They said they discovered that there is a creeping danger into our democracy, that we're moving into a one-party state. And they asked the president, please, can you please provide level playing field where the rules will be fair to all? This was all they asked. And the president said, practically, in my own opinion, he said no. And that was what the cardinal said. The cardinal said that from what he gathered, the president and his party wants to win by all means. Meaning practically he said no, that he will not provide level playing field. And he said, and they really are deploying all the means to win at all cost. And he warned that if its part is followed, it will lead to difficulties. And then the president actually corroborated when he said, all is fair in politics. Meaning, whether I win or not. And he actually used the word wrestle. Wrestle is to fight. Now, let me tell you the danger in that wrestle. And I'm sorry to say this. I'm trying to see a more civil word, but it's like I can't find the ignorance in that word wrestle. With respect, you only wrestle with your fellow candidates where there is no free and fair election. Democracy is not built for the candidates to wrestle against each other. Democracy is built for the candidates to relate with the electorates, present their programs to the electorate, and the electorate will choose. In some instances, the candidates may not even know each other, may not have met each other. Kamala Harris said she has never met if I remember, that she has never met Donald Trump one-on-one until the day they went for debate. So there is no basis for wrestling between candidates. You go to the electorate, you provide your programs, convince them, and they vote for you. And an independent body will announce the winners. Simple. So a president coming out to tell you that he will wrestle them to the ground confirms actually what the cardinal is saying. But I have one news for President Tinubu. You're going to wrestle against Nigerian people. And from where I come from, when a man wrestles with the people will certainly defeat him. Nigerian people that you're wrestling with will defeat you in 2027 and then throne a government that will begin to rebuild the country that you have destroyed. So the cardinal came out smelling like roses. I do not even understand the reason for the insult against the Catholic bishops. And let me tell you why I'm taking it personally. I was born into a Catholic home. As a matter of fact, if you ask my mother today, oh, God bless you, gave you all these children. He said, Mary. In other words, that we are children of Virgin Mary. So, for one, Mary, for you to insult Catholic bishops tells you the level we've gone into. Let me tell you, I was a mass servant, just altar boy, when I was young, and I served even the bishop. And when I see men that have given all, no wife, no children, giving all for the service of humanity, and you were insulting them, saying they are political, when they came out to say, we are not politicians, we don't have any ambition. When you insult them, you have insulted God. And it's unfortunate, because Christians are complicit in this insult. Because some of them will still go and vote for Tinubu.
Well, everybody has a right to vote.
No, can you imagine if you insult some of the religious leaders of other faiths, it might lead to jungle justice of your being burnt alive.
Very true. But I also want you to address the response of the president's media aides, specifically Mr. Daniel Bola, who, while responding to Cardinal Onanuga's interview on Arise Television, said Cardinal Onanuga was not speaking for Nigerian Christians, only Catholics, and in fact went ahead, demanded from the Cardinal an apology to President Tinubu. Then another media aide, Tokwe Ajayi, said summary of what he said was that Cardinal Onanuga breached presidential confidentiality. That's the first time I was hearing of that. So how do you respond to this?
I wouldn't have. Let me take it that you asked the question, not that you mentioned those names, because I don't understand the quality of their reasoning. I'm telling you honestly, I'm sorry. Confidential, something that was recorded. Confidential, something that was open. We saw the address by the cardinal, the president of the Catholic bishops. It was recorded. We saw their interaction. So what was confidential in it? It was the State House that broadcasted what Tinubu said. It was not the video from the cardinals. When we heard all is fair in politics, what was confidential in it? What Cardinal Onanuga was saying reflected exactly what was published by the State House media. So what was confidential in it? Nothing. So that's why I said I don't want to respond to self-explanatory evidence that is self-explanatory. Now, when you talked about the other person, like I said, I think I've answered it, because when he says, the cardinal himself said, we are not here as politicians, we are not looking for Tinubu's job or any politician's job. The cardinal cannot even be a pope now, because he's more than 80. So on what basis will he be political? The cardinal stood against Jonathan when he felt something was wrong. He stood against all other presidents. Buhari, he stood against them. So was he the one who said all is fair in politics? Was he the one who said we will rest her? They went there to talk for the poor, those who do not have voice. So what was political in it? Did you see him endorse any political candidate? The cardinal said, we the bishop, we are human, we have our own political differences, but when it comes to our existential existence, this is his word, when it comes to the lives of our people, the things that matter, we are united. And that was what took them to the president. So what was political about the economy, the insecurity, and the political climate? Ensure free and fair and credible election. What was political about it? We're talking about the survival of a country, survival of a nation, because a nation stands on a tripod. If you want to be a superpower nation, political stability, economic viability, and a strong military force. And the cardinals were simply talking about how to move Nigeria in this direction. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to talk without using certain words, but this is a display of unintelligence and being very unreasonable. You don't play policy with everything. I'm Pentecostal now. Anytime I see a reverend father, if I go home, they know how much I revere them, even if for the fact that they agreed to live a life of poverty that others may be wealthy. Look at a president telling men who have given all that they should go and feed the poor. They should go and do this. Please, let me ask, is there any budgetary allocation to them to feed the poor? Is there any? They are making their own sacrifice in order that any money that they are giving, they use it for others. And the president is saying they should go and feed the poor. And the president that is sitting on trillions, which he borrows us, he has borrowed us into bondage, he cannot feed the poor. And men who have given their life to serve, the president is telling them to go and do his job. Sorry, Mr. President, you have failed. You should apologize to Cardinal Onanuga and anybody who is of any conscience that votes for this president. You have insulted Cardinal Onanuga, because what you're saying is that such insults should be perpetuated. That's what you're saying.
Okay, let's switch gears. Let's discuss the ongoing feud between your principal, Atiku Abubakar, and his estranged principal, former President Olusegun Obasanjo. You know, I call these two elder statesmen, I call them, estranged lovers or spouses, because it will seem like every election cycle, suddenly they resurrect their age-long animosities. So President Obasanjo has been throwing jabs at Atiku all over again, and of course Atiku's camp also are responding in like manner. Indeed, during a recent interview on our platform, the Atiku's media aide, Mr. Paul Ibe, made very strong allegations, claiming that a proposal has been made to former President Obasanjo by the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure his kinsman does not lose the 2027 election. And that's the script President Obasanjo is working on. The only person standing in the pathway of Tinubu is Atiku Abubakar. So everything is being done to neutralize or weaken Atiku's chances. That indeed, President Obasanjo is misleading Nigerians by following Peter Obi and Kwankwanso, openly saying he's supporting their ticket. That is misleading Nigerians because he knows that ticket will not deliver anything. How do you respond to all of this?
I was in the presidential campaign as a spokesperson in 2023.
Yes. The Labour Party presidential campaign of Peter Obi, specifically.
Then I sincerely thought Obasanjo meant well. And because the power needed to go to the south. So when he endorsed us, I sincerely thought he meant well. So I didn't believe it that he had any ulterior motive. But then after the election, I started seeing him wearing, how do you call it? Renewed hope cap. Attending occasions. When you go at times, you owe me under. First lady. They'll invite him, this and that. And I sat down and I said, okay, I will not confirm until when 2027 is approaching. Now that every opposition leader on their own chose a platform, ADC, to contest him. If Obasanjo sincerely meant that Tinubu will be removed from power, would he not work with the entire opposition in order to remove the incumbent? Power has rotated. I always judge men by their antecedents. Obasanjo is from the south. In 2015, Goodluck Jonathan had not finished 8 years. But Obasanjo joined the coalition even when he loaded Buhari. Even when Buhari wanted to upstage him and remove him as president in 2003 and become president, Obasanjo joined the coalition of the opposition people to remove Goodluck Jonathan when Goodluck Jonathan had not finished 8 years. Meaning he understood that it is only when the opposition is working together that they can defeat an incumbent. So if in 2027, because power has rotated to the south, Obasanjo is not willing to work for the opposition, entire opposition, but is willing to divide them, then I agree without equivocation that is working for Tinubu. I made it clear to everybody before that anybody that leaves the opposition by whatever name is working for Tinubu. Because the more divided the opposition is, the more Tinubu wins. So if Obasanjo comes out openly to say he's endorsing any candidate outside the opposition candidate, because all of us agreed when we went into ADC. That's why I take myself as the spokesperson for the presidential candidate of the coalition. That was how we started talking about ADC. I made it clear that anybody who emerges as the presidential candidate of the coalition, I will work for, I will campaign for. So I'm not seeing myself just as the presidential spokesperson of Atiku Abubakar. No. I'm the presidential spokesperson of the presidential candidate of the coalition. Anybody who is not within the coalition is working for Tinubu, because we all agreed. Atiku Abubakar, Chibike Amaechi, whether it's Tambo, whether it's Rufai, whether it's P2B, whether it's Kwakwan, so whether it was in ADC, we all agreed. So if Obasanjo is using any tactic to draw any politician away from the opposition, he's working for Tinubu. Let me correct an impression. There is no feud between Atiku Abubakar and Obasanjo. There is an outright mission of Obasanjo, and he said it himself, against Atiku being president. He said, God will not forgive me if I allow Atiku to be president. Even that statement, I'm sorry to say it, is very hypocritical, because in 2019 he still endorsed Atiku Abubakar to be president just because he wanted to get at Buhari, not that he wanted Atiku to be president. Now, he had made that statement that God will punish him or that God will not forgive him if he supports Atiku to be president. What did Atiku do? In the letter he wrote to Oshoba, what is Atiku's business in it? I heard he was alleging that Atiku paid the money to Galinaba to impeach him. The mere fact that there was no reason for him to say it tells you that there is an ulterior motive. The mere fact that what he's saying is not tenable logically tells you an ulterior motive, and I'll tell you why it's not logical. Gale Omanaba finished as speaker in 2003. So even when he finished as speaker, Obasanjo still considered Atiku Abubakar the most qualified person to be his vice president.
Again,
is it logical? If you say that you know that a man is capable of giving what he called paying people to impeach him, and you now went ahead to choose the same man to be your VP, who has a problem? Is it Obasanjo? For me, it's Obasanjo because you are complicit in whatever you claim the person is doing. But let me tell you the actual truth, having said this. I remember one day when Gali Omanaba came out one morning and paraded money on a table in front of him. I said, this money is from the executive, the head of the executive. And that day we are paying money to some members of the House of Rep to impeach him. So to Gali Omanaba, Obasanjo wanted to impeach him. And Gali Omanaba too wanted to impeach Obasanjo. I remember Gali Omanaba saying this himself, I think during Obasanjo's birthday. He tried to impeach Obasanjo, it did not work. Obasanjo tried to impeach him, it did not work. Meaning that it is not the will of God that they will impeach each other. It was not only in House of Representatives that they wanted to impeach Obasanjo. In the Senate, they wanted to impeach him.
Under Bayo Onanuga.
Under Bayo Onanuga, they said it. Under Chubokadibo, they said it. Zwingina was the person who enumerated all the impeachable offenses by Obasanjo on the floor of the Senate. And that was why those two men, Bayo Onanuga and Zwingina, were never allowed to come back. That was the reason, part of the reason Chubokadibo was impeached. And if Bayo Onanuga said that Obasanjo wanted to impeach him, it is true. Obasanjo impeached, in Obasanjo's time, he changed his Senate president 5 times in 2 tenure. Evan Ewelem was there. Obasanjo brought him against the will of the majority of the Senate. They removed Evan Ewelem. It was not Obasanjo. They removed him because it was not their choice. Chobo Karibo came in. He was impeached. Obasanjo did not hide his dislike because Choba had the mind of his own. Bayo Onanuga came in. He was the last person. That's 3. Then Mwabara came in. Obasanjo put him in chains and sent him to court to try him. Then after that, the Mwabara now left, and then Kenneth Okonkwo came in. There was none of these 5 he worked well with except the first one. So Obasanjo changed the national chairman of his own party 5 times within 8 years. So was it Atiku Abubakar that was responsible for this? Atiku Abubakar was actually the person that was defending Obasanjo from being impeached. Each time Obasanjo is in problem, Atiku Abubakar manifests to assist him. Atiku Abubakar was the person who went to Ota when Obasanjo was not qualified to be president. Obasanjo was bankrupt. Obasanjo was a convict. And if you're these 2, you're not qualified. Obasanjo himself came out. The first day he went to them, he said, "Why are you put trouble in me? You know, you can't go to jail for 6 years and remain the same. I've had the highest office in the land. I've had the lowest office in the land. Why are you worrying me again? I don't want." It was Obasanjo when they went to him the first time. And Obasanjo told them his reasons. And Atiku Abubakar led the people that ensured that Obasanjo was cleansed from his bankruptcy and was cleansed from his being an ex-convict. They pardoned him. They paid off his debts. I remembered Ojus Okalu saying in one occasion that when he gave Obasanjo 100 million naira, as at that time. So you see, they cleansed him. And then Atiku Abubakar packaged him to be president. Atiku Abubakar had won election as governor of Adamawa State, but for his love of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar was part of the people that ensured power shift to the south. That is why it hurts me when people who do not know what they are saying are talking about zoning. Atiku Abubakar was the person who said, no, Nigeria is not going towards the right direction. From 1990 to 1993, even when Abiola promised him to be vice and did not fulfill it, he still begged his own boss, Yaradua, to support a southerner to be president. And he helped MK Abiola in the north to win through Democrats. In 1998, he still maintained, even having become a governor, that power must shift to the south, that we are one country, and no section shall be seen to be marginalizing the other section. It will not be good for national unity. The only discord was third term. Obasanjo sent delegates to His Excellency Atiku Abubakar that he wanted a third term. And I'm quoting Atiku Abubakar now. He told me this. So when they came to me, I told them, would you deliver my message to him? They said yes. Say, go and tell him that I will not only that I will not support him, I will fight it because it will not be good for Nigeria. And Obasanjo went ahead. He thought he could do anything he wanted. And Atiku, this same Obasanjo is talking about giving people money. Then Uchechukwu Merije came in and said they were being bribed for Totem. Is it still Atiku? Is it still Atiku that is against it? That is giving money to the senators? Or giving money to the House of Rep people? Femi Gbajabiamila even said not too long ago that they were being bribed. 50 million from what I heard to the House of Rep, 70 million to the senators. Atiku Abubakar fought it and won because he is a Democrat. And that was why Atiku Abubakar said, I am loyal to you, sir, and you know it 100%. But when it comes to the issue of the Constitution, when it comes to the issue of loyalty to Nigerian people, I will choose Nigeria. I will choose the Constitution above you. Because according to education, democracy is a government of the law, not of individuals. It's a government of rule of law. not of individuals. So Atiku preferred. Do you know that Obasanjo would have been like the Ugandan Yoweri Museveni, whose son now, as a military man, is trying to morph to become president after the father for almost 40 years. That is what he planned. So third term, Atiku Abubakar stood against it. And that is the reason of all this. When Obasanjo say corruption, have you ever asked him to give us specifics? Even when I was quoting him for political purposes, I only say Obasanjo say corruption. I could not quote specifics. That tells you that the whole idea is vendetta. Atiku Abubakar has no problem with his boss. He remained loyal even till today. And Atiku Abubakar in 2017 challenged anybody that has any evidence of corrupt practice to bring it forth, and is willing to waive anything and everything to be investigated. It was under Atiku Abubakar, who was the head of the management team, that the fight against corruption was at its peak. And even an inspector general of police was tried for corruption. And if you go and read the history, Atiku Abubakar was part of the people that fired the inspector general of police. So I want you to know that the best thing that can happen to Nigeria today is that a Democrat known for his stand for democracy, a man who, as the head of the economic team, delivered the best economy to Nigeria ever that we have seen, a man that suppressed insecurity even as vice president, is the best thing that can happen to this country, to be the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is why God has been keeping Atiku Abubakar, and Atiku Abubakar will be the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He has excelled in security, he has excelled in economy, he has excelled in democracy. He's a democratic hero. He fought the military, and he has delivered to us the stability we need in terms of the fact that nobody has succeeded in changing our constitution to become an eternal leader. Please, we should not miss this opportunity of redeeming Nigeria through Atiku Abubakar and Rotimi Amaechi.
Okay, you've said quite a lot, and I allowed you because I see how passionate you are about this.
Thank you.
And I can't take that away from you. But I don't know whether I would allow you to respond to this, but in all you said, two quick clarifications. Number one, was it Atiku that actually brought Obasanjo in 1999, or the military? Don't forget, Obasanjo was the boss of all of them, the Babangidas of this world, the Abdulsalam Abubakar, the Tiwai Danjumas. And in fact, my own version of history is that it was IBB who prevailed on his kinsman, his Mina, brother, Abubakar, Abdulsalam Abubakar, that the best bet to assuage the grievances of Yorubas after Abiola was denied and then died, that they should choose their boss, their former boss, Obasanjo. And then it is on record that not only did Tiwai Danjuma probably financed that Obasanjo's campaign. In fact, Tiwai Danjuma, I read, said he would leave Nigeria if Obasanjo does not win, and marshaled all the resources to make sure Obasanjo won. And also was rewarded with the position of Minister for Defense. 1 minute. Is that not the proper? Atiku played a role, no doubt, but not to the extent of IBB, Abdulsalam Abubakar, the head of state, and Tiwai Danjuma. What do you say to that? 1 minute.
Let me just put it in a summary form.
Yes.
You and I know that if I had broken down everything
that transpired,
we wouldn't go here today.
Exactly.
And thank God you put it in perspective. So what you said is largely correct. But the military men were not politicians.
True.
So they could only state their preferences. Now, amongst them, you have the politicians who will execute. So whereas I agree with you that it was a collective decision of the powers that be, but it was Atiku Abubakar, being the most experienced political person amongst them, that was the arrowhead that implemented, that executed what all of them agreed to do together. Okay. Those people you mentioned, if you check in 2011, they still contested with Atiku Abubakar.
I knew you were going to go there.
For the Northern ticket, Northern endorsement.
Exactly.
And Atiku still won all of them. So when it comes to politics, Atiku is the master. But I agree with you completely that these men you mentioned played significant and admirable roles in the birth of an Obasanjo presidency.
Okay, this one I'm not sure, maybe there's a need for response, but let me just state it for record purposes. Yes, it is true that former VP Atiku Abubakar has never been prosecuted, let alone being convicted of any.
He has never been investigated.
But you also know
by any
corruption
agency. I'm not talking about a president setting up an administrative, which the court said this is nonsense. There's no way you can secure the independence and impartiality of an interested president who has even declared the office of his vice vacant. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about corruption agency.
But there are cases in the US that were levied against a certain congressman, Jefferson, and was convicted. And was, tied to former VP Atiku Abubakar, and his wife, money laundering cases, former Mrs. Jennifer Atiku Abubakar, and all of those. Are you saying those cases are not germane? There are people who have all sort of lists of money laundering cases against former
First
VP.
and foremost, let me tell you, even in America.
1 minute.
Good. Even in America.
Yes.
Those cases you're talking have been tossed away and thrown out by the appellate court. And then, I don't need to ask you. I would have asked you who tied.
I know that when
people are talking about tie, who tied?
When campaign starts, I'm sure all of this will be brought.
I said those ones have been tossed even in America.
We have less than 5 minutes. We have less than 5 minutes to wrap up.
You are the one who is taking our time.
We need to make this clarification because of the viewers.
Do that.
Now, switching gears, your friend and brother, my own good friend and brother, so Kenneth Okonkwo, came out to, say some very, not too savory stuff about you. That the reason why you are so vocal in your deprecation of Mr. Peter Obi is that, you issue of rents and all of those, and then that's why you are, I can't say so, because I don't want to worsen the matter between both of you. You are still brothers. How do you maybe 1 minute? 1 minute.
Well, you said Kenneth Okonkwo is my brother.
Yes, he is.
Yes, I can't
deny it.
Very good. But have you forgotten that the first allegation he made was that the reason I left P2B was because I went to ask for public secretary? That was the first thing I addressed. That was the first thing he alleged, that I went, and I told you all that I have never had any meeting in my life between Kenneth Okonkwo, myself, and Peter Obi. It never happened. So all these are fabricated news. When did he change from the public secretary now to that I asked for rent? Okay, you people that have been interviewing me, you know how long we started? You've been coming to my house to interview me. I've not even allowed you to show any part of my house. I say no. My religion demands modesty. The first thing you said when you came to my eyes that this house is so lovely. I said, thank God. Before I entered active politics, I built all the houses that I need. Before I came to P2B, because I wanted to be an independent person with my own opinion. Because I made it clear from day one that my loyalty is to Nigeria, to Nigerian people and the Constitution, and my conscience and the commandment of God. And I am not going to move away from this. So my loyalty is not to a political party or to a politician but to Nigeria. So I have never asked for rent from anybody since I was born. Because one, by the grace of God, I lived in my father's house, finished the university, went and lived in my own in Lagos. By 1994, I packed into my own duplex in Lagos, number 5 Cobham Street, Ajawi State, Lagos. And I lived there for 14 years. And when I came to Abuja, I started building my own houses. So before I joined active politics, I've already packed in here. And I may allow you people to drop in my house today just to give you the evidence that he is a pathological liar and he's incapable of saying the truth. And I wonder why they want to campaign for their leader with falsehood. So if the first one was false, like I told you, since I've never had any meeting between me, Kenneth Okonkwo, and P2B, this one is even so much false that the evidence is there, even with your network. You have never met me in a rented apartment. And I started talking with you people from almost the time you started. So that is a white lie. Let me tell you, being very modest, I rent apartments for people as part of my own humanitarian jobs.
I think you've dealt with
I really thank God for that. It is by his grace. When I built my house the first time, where I'm living in my own village, where they went to serve the purported defamation suit, was my own house in my own village. People said it was the best house in the street.
I think you've dealt with this,
and I give glory to God. Remember, I never mentioned this. I didn't want to mention this.
You've dealt with this,
but just to answer that question.
Yes, because it would not have been fair to not allow you to respond to it.
Oh, I mean, I wonder why they don't even know that in politics. Yes, I don't normally take all these things serious.
Let's wait.
If you are the one who is believing it, then you are the foolish person, not the person who is saying it. Because the person who is saying it has a reason. Yes. So when people now talk about defamation, that's why I say they are low. Politics is war without bullets. Now me get my mouth. Now you get your mouth. If you give me one, I'll give you 10.
Let's make progress.
But since they have introduced defamation suit, we will go on that line and we'll see how it will
that matter is subjudice. So let's leave that. Now, the debate over zoning, you are, championed Southeast participation in presidential politics and all of that. But we are where we are now in the presidential contest. Mind you, the president has reaffirmed, this Muslim ticket. What's your stance on his continuance of this?
Now,
1 minute. We're running out of time.
You know what? Let me talk about this Muslim ticket.
Yes.
Because that's the reason that I left APC in the first place. And it was not Muslim ticket, it is same faith ticket. As a Christian, Tinubu bounced Jesus Christ from Aso Rock. You know what Isaiah 9:6 said? He said, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government is upon his shoulders, and he shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. Tinubu bounced the Prince of Peace from Aso Rock. Can you see?
Is that not extreme? The wife is a pastor.
Can you see the
wife is a
life
pastor.
that we're living now?
Senator Remi Tinubu is a pastor, an ordained
Which
pastor.
political post is that? And who
First
elected?
lady, the office of
who
the first
elected
lady.
her?
The office of
She
the
has
first lady.
no duty by the constitution. And as long as Christianity is concerned, the man is the head of the house. And I'm talking about the presidency, where they say the president and the vice, they are associates. Thank God I am campaigning now for a northern Muslim. So nobody will say it is because I have anything against Islam or against the North. No.
But has the president infringed
I
on the
am
rights of
talking
Christians?
about inclusivity.
Has the president Tinubu infringed on the rights of Christians to practice their faith? He hasn't, to the best of my
He
knowledge.
has discriminated against them, and discrimination is disallowed in the constitution by section 14 subsection 3. You cannot eliminate Christians from the presidency because that portion talked about federal character. We are multi-religious, and the whole idea is that you reflect federal character in the composition of your government. Now let me talk about this and probably probably end with it. I was with my northern Muslims, and we're all together, and I asked them, I said, before Allah, all of you should tell me, who amongst you here, or how many of you here will vote for a Christian ticket if it is what is here today? They looked at each other. You know, once you mention Allah, a true Muslim will say his mind. Say, Wallahi, we're not right for it. All of them, we are honest. But look at Christians in Nigeria. You will go to vote for a Muslim ticket. They said it. I thanked them for their honesty, and I said that is why I am saying, as a Christian, that I will not vote for a Muslim ticket. And they told me, you are right, that even the Muslim ulamas, they have come together to say it's a haram for anybody in 2027 to vote for a Muslim ticket. Muslims have been the worst hit in a Muslim ticket. The first time Abiola chose a fellow Muslim, we knew how it ended. Now again, you're choosing this. It shows that God himself does not like the injustice. We are talking about inclusivity. We're not talking about anything against Islam, the religion of peace. We're not talking about that. No, we're saying that any demography that has constituted such amount of people in Nigeria, they ought to be included in the conduct of the affairs of any government.
The president's wife is a Christian.
You're talking about wife.
And then there's so many Christians. There's so many Christians in the villa.
Do you know how many wives he has?
There are so many Christians.
Or how many women he has? He has more Muslim wives.
I only know of Senator Mrs. Oluremi.
Okay, Sheyi fell from.
I don't want to join your suit.
No, hold on. Is Sheyi the son of Remi Tinubu?
Let's
Remi fell from heaven.
Let's move on.
No, let me know now.
Let's move on. There are so many Christians in the villa. Let's move on. Okay.
Please,
Did
I say please? I said,
what is the pathway for Atiku Amaechi victory in 2027? What's the pathway? 2 minutes, please.
Very, very straight. Tinubu has collapsed in the entire north. The 19 states.
He has 31 or 32 governors.
Let him
all
have,
the senators, all the reps.
Let him have 40 governors, because you know they manufacture in APC. They manufacture things. Yes, they manufacture things in our tax law. They manufacture
all the city boys, all the big boys in Nigeria for him.
If you're going to answer questions, then let me do the
No, I'm just trying to correct you.
That's what I'm saying. If you're helping me, let me start asking you the question.
Okay, so 2 minutes.
Very good.
1 minute 30 seconds.
Thank you. You know, when we campaigned for 2020, 2023, we had no governor. We had nothing. And Tinubu did not win more states than us. People have not seen the way he performed. Tinubu did not win more states than Atiku Abubakar. 2020, 2023. Now that he's the worst president Nigeria has ever had. You think he will win any state? Without rigging, Tinubu will not win any state. So the path to victory is very clear. And by the grace of God, if the opposition gets their acts together, because there is a move towards that, and I believe in God, that we will do, Tinubu will be gone in 2027 by the grace of God. The path is so clear that you should be talking about whether Tinubu will win states. Because I know that he cannot perform worse in government and then go and perform better in election. That would be logical. So he is going to perform worse in election than he performed the last time. And the opposition, through the coalition ADC, will win the election outrightly. by the special grace of God.
Of the 6 zones.
Of the 6 zones.
Will Atiku Amaechi ticket win?
I've told you, if Atiku wins the 19 states in the north, that's 3 zones already. So they just need the south. Southeast, Atiku will get the necessary winning. South, where Amaechi is there. Anybody who is telling you that the south will prefer DG of an agency to the vice president is trying to tell you that south people don't have sense, and that is not true. South people are very brilliant and intelligent,
but you know, Peter,
they will prefer the vice president to the DG of any, from
2022 record, 2023 records. Peter Obi will get 100% of votes in the southeast, regardless of the 5.
He didn't get 100%.
He got 96, 97.
No, he didn't get 100% in
approximately 98, 100% in southeast.
I am from the southeast.
Yes.
What I can tell you is that the opposition leaders and the opposition parties agreed that it's ADC they will use, and southeast people are intelligent. They will not want to waste their vote in 2027. What I am saying is that they are going to maintain the agreement that they will vote for the opposition as agreed by everybody, including Peter Obi. Peter Obi agreed. We unveiled ADC together. We worked for ADC. He agreed he was going to run in ADC. And as far as I'm concerned, the Southeast will maintain that agreement. And so the Southeast will deliver for the coalition, which is the ADC, so that they don't waste their votes.
Let me allow you to comment for 1 minute on this raging scandals in the presidency, the fake agency.
This government is a joke. And they joke with everything. Even when they are indicting themselves, they don't know. That's why I've not seen this kind of government. You were the government that told us about this agency. You were the government that allocated office, where you allocate offices to your agencies, official, to this agency. You were the government that allocated personnel to this agency. You were the government that put this agency in your budget. You were the government that allowed the DG of the agency to operate in that office and welcomed diplomats and all the leaders of the government to this agency. And you are the same government telling us that the agency is fake. Are you okay? No, let me ask. No, are you normal? Prince Adeniyi Matthew. Is it Adeyemi or something?
Adeyemi Matthew.
Is he a wizard? Did he fly into the secretariat? And he said the only problem here is sharing formula for money. And I agree with him, because he did not allocate that office to himself. He did not put that that agency in the budget. He did not open the CBN account himself. He did not do anything himself. So telling me that he's fake means that you're telling me your government is fake, because everything we know about this agency came from you. When did you start knowing that it's fake? Meanwhile, fake is trying to imitate an original. If it is fake, then where is the original? Everything about this agency, you know my opinion, it is a creation of this government to siphon the money of government for their selfish ends. And when the sharing formula became a problem, the bubble busted. That's my opinion.
Nice place to anchor. It's been a pleasure, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo. Always a pleasure having this wonderful conversation with you. And I'm sure we'll do this again pretty soon as we slide into campaign season.
Always.